Can you explain to me what happened there from a striker's point of view?
Yeah, he dived. Pretty simple.
I would agree with you, Alan, on that one. Hello and welcome to The Rest is Football with me, Gary Lineker, Micah Richards and Alan Shearer. It's the Q&A episode, but we're going to start by talking about last night's game. We're discussing this on Tuesday morning. So last night we watched that extraordinary football match between Liverpool and Newcastle. So we had to have a few minutes on that particular game. Bit disappointing for you, Alan, but my goodness me, it was breathtaking pace, wasn't it?
It's that fixture's produced some great games, hasn't it, over the years. It very rarely disappoints, and it certainly didn't last night. The best team won by a mile. They battered Newcastle in terms of chances, I think, but I know one big talking point will be the dive, which I'm sure we'll get a mention. But yeah, Liverpool looking strong and looking good, and I know when Salah leaves for 6 or 7 games, they might miss him they will miss him because he's that good a player. Bloody hell, he's so good, isn't he? And yeah, Liverpool looking strong, looking good, and they're gonna be right up there.
Yeah. For us neutrals, Micah, that was it was a great watch, wasn't it? Even the first half that was remarkably goalless was kind of, I would say end to end. It was more obviously the Liverpool attacking end that was featured because they played, as Alan quite rightly said, some great stuff, and missed opportunities, missed the penalty, but great start to 2024.
Amazing. You say neutral, but I'm not really neutral only because I play fantasy football. And you're neutral, guys, and you can enjoy the football like,
No,
start
I can't
the
because
year.
I get the grief of my sons on me all the time, Micah. I get the grief from them. It's 1 minute it's all roses and everything's incredible, and the next minute it's the end of the world with that thing.
Yeah, but you don't understand. It genuinely messes with your feelings. So we've got, I'm in about 4 or 5 different groups, and everyone's got Salah. And a lot of people went with, I don't know, a Foden captain, a Watkins captain because he's been in really good form. And the odd one went with even Palmer captain, and he had a wonderful goal, got like 18 points. And then watching the game, like you said, the game's brilliant, end to end. We know we love the tune, being down there. I always want the tune to do well. But I wanted Salah to score because he's my captain. What does he go and do? He go and misses the penalty. I'm on -2 in the first 20 minutes of the game. Honestly, my head had gone. I'm not watching the game for comfort. I'm watching the game for points. My head had gone.
You do know you have the opportunity and the choice not to play.
No, that's like saying, do you not want to be a football fan? Fantasy football is imperative to your lifestyle, especially as a football fan. And I know you guys don't play it. It sounds ridiculous, but I'm being deadly serious right now. But apart from that, the game was wonderful. Salah was great. Jota, again, we talked about
I was
Jota.
wondering when we're going to get back into the match rather than the fantasy football.
But Jota, we've said how many times, Jota, and like Alan said, we're going to talk about the dive, not dive, whatever it may be, but it just comes on and he makes a difference within the game. And that's what they need when Salah's going to African Cup of Nations. And I just thought Liverpool offensively were brilliant.
They really were. They've got quite a lot of options. They certainly are the team of the moment, aren't they? They're in very good form, playing excellent football. They've got that energy that they probably lost for a little while last season. They've got that back, and he's got options and choices. I know, obviously, the African Cup of Nations, but that affects most sides. Apart from, well, not Manchester City, but it affects most sides and the Asian Cup. But they're gonna take some stopping, take some beating.
There's no doubt about it. Liverpool are going the distance. They'll be right up there come the last weekend or two of the season. They're a really good team. Van Dijk's back to his best. Trent's having a great time. They've got an unbelievable goalkeeper. So and when you've got the brilliance of Mo Salah, then you've got every chance. And what Liverpool have got is they've got game changers that can do that coming off the bench. There's so many options, haven't they?
It actually takes me to a question. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the game and obviously the VAR decision around the Jota penalty /dive. Question from Matt Woods: has Trent solved his England omission problem and Southgate's quandary about where and how to play him by playing his way into our midfield for the Euros? Trent Alexander-Arnold, Rice, Jude for the summer. It's certainly a viable option. I mean, he's the best passer. I mean, his passing range is truly extraordinary. I mean, it really is. And I've been harping on about the fact that I think he's a midfield player for about 6 years now. Probably not quite that long, but I mean, he's playing on the obviously right back at the moment, but drifting into midfield a lot and playing with so much freedom. But God blimey, his passing range is remarkable.
It's outrageous. It's like, actually, when you just said that, Trent, Bellingham and Rice, like, gets you a little bit excited, doesn't it? Thinking those three in the middle for England, that is really, really exciting now.
Yeah. If you add to that the possibilities of Cole Palmer, of James Maddison as well. Phil Foden.
Behave yourself, Gary.
Saka.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Saka. Anyway, we've had this conversation many times. Back to the game last night. Alan, obviously on our group chat, you were blimey, not particularly happy with the second penalty. I mean, the first one I thought was a penalty, definitely, but the second one, I mean, if there is contact, it's minimal. I wonder whether he's going around because you're thinking, aren't you, just stay on your feet and knock it in.
Yeah.
But I think internally in his mind, I think he's had a little bit of a panic that he's knocked it too far, and he's just gone, right, I better go down because I felt something. But I'm shocked they didn't turn that over. Shocked.
No, but we need to put some context into this because you two are both strikers. You're both running at that pace. So explain I thought if he's running at that pace, it only takes a little bit of a touch to send you over. That was my first thought. But then obviously he exaggerates the dive afterwards. So yeah, can you explain to me what happened there from a striker's point of view?
Yeah, he dived. Pretty simple.
I would agree with you, Alan, on that one. I mean, I used to go around the goalkeeper a lot, so it's something that I kind of, I wouldn't say I was an expert at, but I did it a lot. So I went round keepers because that was the classic example of how to go around a goalkeeper. When they're running out at you and you're running at them, that kind of extreme two speeds coming together gives you a massive advantage. All you've got to do is drag it wide and then just slide it in. Now, as you quite rightly say, Micah, if you are hit at that pace, you will go down. And sometimes if you do a heavy touch, you might not, let's say, jump out of the way of the goalkeeper if he slides in. And if he clatters you, I don't think that's a dive. That's you using common sense against a goalkeeper who's got it wrong. But there is a difference between that and actually manufacturing a dive, because I think even that kind of contact was not enough. No way was that enough to send anyone over. And I think he knows he's not going to go over. He's felt a tiny touch, but he's thinking, I can score. And then I think he's had a mild panic in his head in that split second where he thought, I'm not going to get this, I'm not going to reach it, and he's gone, I better go down. And that for me is a dive. But normally, when you are a striker in that position, you do have that option of winning a penalty by not jumping out. I don't think a striker has, I don't think it should be that you should have to leap out of the way of a goalkeeper lunging at you. But there is a difference between that and actually this sort of contact. There's no way that contact didn't knock you over.
It's a good job we did do this last night when I was still raw and angry. But and I've calmed down a little bit. No way was it going to affect the result. The best team won. They battered Newcastle. They should have scored 7 or 8. But I mean, that's as clear as dive as you're ever going to see. I mean, what was it? 3 paces after the tiny bit of contact, was it? 3 paces. I mean, I agree with everything you've said, but he could have got the ball. He could have just stayed on his feet and tapped it in.
Yeah, I think he could as well. I just said, I think he had a moment of panic that he didn't think he was going to get it.
Yeah.
But come on, VAR, you're encouraging diving.
Yeah.
We said it the other day, didn't we, Mike? We talked about it. We even talked about it on Match of the Day on Saturday night. The fact now that players know that if they feel the most minimal contact, they can go down, and they know that if the referee gives a penalty, because often it's difficult for referees in those circumstances, but it's not difficult for VAR to see that.
Yeah.
And it was a bit, even wasn't quite the same, but we had the Burnley penalty at the weekend where he just flicked the bottom of his sole.
Yeah.
So they know now. So players, as soon as they feel anything, are just going to go boom down on the floor, because they know VAR will help them. Help them kid the referees. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, I was amazed like you that whoever the VAR was last night, that him and his assistant VAR, that both of them can look at that and think, nah, it's all right. That's really the correct decision, and he hasn't dived. I mean, goodness me, do me a favour.
I want to give Jurgen Klopp some credit, because, I mean, I love the way his team play.
What a manager.
Football. And what a manager.
Yeah.
And he's done it for so many years now. And even when he's had the blips, when they lost the form, like he's had particularly early last season, but he's rebuilding a side, isn't he, as well, in many ways. It's a different looking side than it was 3 or 4 years ago. He really is. I love his football. It's so entertaining.
He's brilliant. He's different class, coach, manager, however you want to describe him. I mean, his attitude on the side of the pitch can be annoying at times, but in a way I sort of admire that and like that as well, because of how passionate he is, how much he loves. I mean, loves his football club and cares about it and everything else, and the football that his team plays is amazing sometimes. And yeah, you're right. He's had to build again, hasn't he? Where from last season to now, and to do it so quickly, and then to being with a proper chance of winning the league again. Yeah, he's a special manager.
I'd love to have played up front for one of his teams. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
That dynamic, attacking, aggressive.
And I think that's what maybe gives them the edge over other teams, is that the firepower that they've got to change games. You know, if it's not working for them with 25 minutes to go, the players up top that they can bring on is brilliant for them. Yeah.
When you look at what he's done, like you said, the rebuilding of the team, and he was going through a bit of a crossroad, wasn't he, where a lot of people were saying at Dortmund he was there for X amount of years and he gets burnt out. And when people were reporting that, and wherever he's been, he can only take a team for so long and then he'll move on. But I was thinking, where's he going to get a better job than Liverpool? The fans love him, the players love him. He's got some good young players coming through. He can spend the money to get them to the next level. Why would you want to leave Liverpool? He's been amazing, and he's been up against one of the greatest managers of all time in Pep. So to win the league, win the Champions League, and even now with rebuilding a team to be fighting for the league as well, he deserves all the credit within the world.
Before we move on to the questions, we've got some good ones I want to get through, and thank you once again for sending those questions. Eddie Howe, Alan, I think that's 4 or 5 of the last 6 games that they've lost. Big game coming up, of course, Sunderland and the FA Cup, that local derby. But at the same time, I'd rotten luck with injuries and things. But this is probably the first time since he took charge where you go, ooh, mini crisis, or whatever you want to describe it as, yeah? Yeah,
absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's worrying. They're shipping goals for fun from what was a great strength of theirs last season, where they looked really tight, compact. Whereas now, and certainly the last 6 or 7 weeks, they are so open and given so many chances to the opposition, and teams are basically going right through the middle, which is another concern. And they look really weak defensively at the minute. Not just the back four, but the lack of protection that they're getting. And in terms of Eddie, yeah, it's probably the first test, but is he under pressure? I think he's got enough in the bank, and I think he should have enough in the bank for what he's done for the football club. I know they've got Sunderland this weekend on Saturday lunchtime, which is a huge game. Then they've got City and Villa, then the 2 league games after that. So, I mean, even if the worst comes to the worst, then for me, he's got enough in the bank to be able to carry on and do what he started to do, and hopefully carry on, because I think he deserves that time.
Don't you just think, before we move on, Gary, just how honest he is with his interviews as well. He never blames anyone. He's always respectful to the interviewer, and he doesn't sugarcoat anything. He just tells it exactly how it is, and it's refreshing for a manager. From the times when it was good, because we interviewed him when we was doing Champions League, and everything was brilliant when he won the PSG game, and it was bouncing, and he didn't get too high. He was just measured and honest, and he's exact same when they're losing. I just hope he gets all the time, because he's done a great job, and I think he's brilliant manager all round. I really do.
Yeah, I can't think for a minute that they'd possibly consider changing at this point. No. He's been superb. Yeah. Let's move on to the questions. Ben, is the Ange ball style of play partly responsible for Spurs players dropping like flies? Well,
I think it's the injuries more than anything, isn't it?
Well, I think that's what he means. Is it the style of play, the front foot nature that, I mean, they play a similar aggressive attacking formula to Liverpool in many ways. And I think I think perhaps a bigger question is, there does seem to be more injuries of recently, doesn't there? Hamstrings, knees, there's a plethora of them, really. And do you think there's any particular reason that? I wonder whether it's the playing surfaces, because nowadays it's a mix, isn't it, of grass and whatever, what's it called?
Yeah, synthetic sort of.
Synthetic surface.
Yeah.
And maybe you can stick in it a little bit more, or maybe because it's a harder surface when you're sprinting, you can more likely to do a hamstring. Pretty damn difficult in my day doing a hamstring, trawling through mud. So I don't know. What do you think?
Seriously, guys, when we had the debate, me and Alan, it was last year now, about the high intensity of the Premier League now, it's completely different. Your body is finely tuned now to these new pitches, the amount of minutes you have to play, and how it's not just how far you run, it's the intensity in which you are running. So of course you're going to pick up more muscle injuries. So for Van der Ven, remember seeing him going off a game with his hamstring. Romero's obviously got a hamstring, and Spurs now play a higher line, so they are doing more high-end sprints. And normally they was a pragmatic team, defensive team who would hold their line and get up slowly. So of course you're going to pick up more injuries when you're doing more sprints within the game, and it's just allowing your body to adapt to that. So of course it is a little bit to the way they play with Ange ball, but it's just their body getting used to a different, that they're doing more like midfielders runs instead of just centre half runs.
Recovery runs, isn't it? Yeah, recovery runs. So when the ball's over the top, the turn, the sprinting, etc. Excuse me. So yeah, I get and understand what you're saying there, Micah. I'd love to see the data, from the football clubs of what times, how many, what positions, all of that, because I'm sure that they've got all that and look into that, and just to see whether there's actually any connection, whether it could be the pitches or whether it could be the fitness levels or the number of sprints more you're doing, etc., etc. I'm sure all the clubs have got the numbers.
Yeah, be interesting to get one of the club's physios on, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
On a guest appearance on one, just to see what they do and the tests.
I think they would come on, but they're just worried about saying the wrong thing
Well,
and
of course.
then
They're
giving
like
insight.
doctors in a way, aren't they?
Yes.
They're not allowed to talk about their patients, I suppose. It's probably quite a difficult ask for them, that particular thing. Another question from another podcast, indeed, the World Class Stamp podcast. We're really enjoying The Rest is Football. It's a good laugh, thank you. Hopefully we can get one of you on our podcast one day. What do you all define as a world-class player? And do you, as players, fall into this category? It says to rate your fellow pundits. We're not going to do that, but from at World Class Stamp podcast. So thank you very much for that question. World class, I don't know about you. I would say world class. It's difficult. I would say any player at some point that you would put in the squad of a world team. So say you go to a World Cup and you had a World Cup team who's in that 22, 23-man squad. I would say if they're that good, then they're world class. I think it's thrown at players too readily, too easily. But I think that would probably be the best. Then you'd argue who should be in that squad. Yeah. So it's
different tiers of brilliance, isn't there? I mean, you've got the very, very best of Messi and Ronaldo, and no one's above those two. And they're in a different stratosphere to anyone else, aren't they? But then you've got the list down below that, I think, of world class players. So yeah, that's how I would sort of define it.
World class is, obviously people like Messi, Mbappe, clearly players. You over the period you'd have put people like Neymar in, and then you've got Van Dijk. You'd have in there players I think that would spend a spell of their career in a world squad, a world 15, a world 16. If you and obviously it's different for different positions because there's only one goalkeeper that plays. There's obviously more midfield players. There's one striker and two wide. It depends in those positions. What do you think, Micah?
I think the new modern era of player are being called world class because I believe the standard of football has dropped a little bit. I think it's more intense. I do. I think the players are fitter, but the individuality of the individual brilliance is different. So if you look at the era of when U2 was coming through, well, let's go Alan Shearer's era. Look at all the strikers that he was up against. Now we've got Kane and we've got Watkins. The era when I was coming through defensive, we got Ledley King, Woodgate, Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Sol Campbell, even just before that, Tony Adams. So I think people are being called world class now because the standard of player around is not as good as it used to be. So in terms of world,
I think you're just talking about English football, though. There, you're going to get spells where you get more centre halves than you do midfield players. At the moment, we've got more creative players than probably any country in the world. But I think the question is more: how do you determine who is a world class player and who isn't a world class player?
It's got to be for a period of time, hasn't it? As well. You can't just do it for a season.
Yeah, of course, it can't be 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's got to be 3 seasons consistently.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'd be one.
I was world class for 6 months.
That is 6 months longer than most people.
Yeah.
It really, really is. So, on that note, let's take a short break. Welcome back to The Rest is Football with Alan Shearer, Micah Richards and me, Gary Lineker. We're into the questions now, and we've got one from Jonathan Greenwood. And I've thought about this a few times. Do you think Celtic and Rangers should join the Premier League? I think it would be amazing.
Me too. I think with the size of those two giant football clubs, it would only enhance our league for the better. And the atmosphere in those grounds is amazing. The support they have around the world is fantastic. So they're two giant clubs. And so absolutely, it would be brilliant if they could be in the Premier League. But I don't think we're ever going to see it.
No, I think the problem is how do you get them in, isn't it? I mean, what do you do? Just chuck 2 teams out and stick 2 giants in, or do you get them to start in, I don't know, League 2 or the Nations League, or what? How do you? It's a little bit unfair on, say for example you stick them in next season and the top 2 that win the championship, particularly as one of them's Leicester. You just go, well, actually, you're not coming up this season because we're sticking Celtic and Rangers. And you certainly can't have the league up to 22 clubs because the fixture levels are already exhausting.
No, I think it'd be great. I agree with Alan. Imagine going there every other week. It'd be brilliant. But I just think what that would do for Scottish football, no disrespect, like Celtic and Rangers and the money that they will bring into the Scottish League, I just believe it'd be entertaining in the Premier League, but I think Scottish football would be dead after that.
Yeah, for Scottish football, it would be the equivalent of the Premier League losing the Big 4 or something, wouldn't it? Or 4 of the Big 6, something like that. Yeah. I think it sounds great, but
it's never going to happen.
Impractical. Chris Paulding. Do you think managers should be subject to a transfer window the same as players? So once you commit to a manager, you have to work it out until the next window, at least. I've always thought this, but I'm no manager.
Let's speak to the manager at the table. Go on, Al. Take it away.
No, when I say I've always thought this, but I'm no manager, that's part of his question.
I was just about to say
that's not my opinion.
How the hell can you plan as a manager or a coach as if you're going to be biffed off to some other club in 6 months' time or whatever? No, ridiculous idea.
No, I think his point is, once you've got a manager, you can't sack him in a period until the window. You've got to at least wait, I suppose. That's what he means, rather than...
Oh, right, okay, maybe I misunderstood it then.
Yeah, I think that's what he means.
Yeah, I sort of get that idea.
Yeah.
If you can't sack him during the season or whatever, then you're with him. I understand that more than I thought what the question was, yeah.
Yeah, I actually quite like that. I think it gives the manager some stability, gives him time to do what he needs to do. The only problem with that is if it becomes toxic and you go on a really bad run and the fans turn on you and there's no way out, really. He's almost just waiting for the inevitable to happen. So I like the idea. Is it practical? Probably not.
Okay. Question from Connor. More a question for Alan and Micah. But as a Bolton Wanderers fan, I always wonder what players thought of those big Sam Bolton teams from 20 years ago with the likes of Kevin Davis, Okocha and Campo, etc., and how difficult they made it for teams, as Arsene Wenger used to hate us. Why is that a question just for Alan and Micah?
I know, yeah.
I mean...
Can you remember that far back?
Well, I think he's thinking I'm a lot younger than you two or something.
Was Bolton called Bolton in your days? What was it? Was it change your name?
The Wanderers.
Hey, you did have some players in there, by the way. Sam, when you think about it, I mean, I think Djokovic was in there as well, wasn't he?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's a really good player.
When Speedo was there as well with him at Bolton. They had some really, really good players.
Campo.
I mean, when you look at Campo, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Herrero, you remember him?
yeah.
You don't believe it.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Incredible, wasn't it?
And actually, for all Sam's reputation for playing kind of direct football, they played some great stuff, but that Bolton side, didn't they?
Yeah.
Although I'm sure I'm not allowed an opinion.
Just ask the questions, you.
They were a good side. I mean, you're absolutely right when you look at Sam and you think how and what, and then for him to be able to attract those type of players into Bolton the way he did, yeah, they were a good team.
I think it's disrespectful all the time when these managers get labelled as just like target men, hit the target man and play for the second ball. Big Sam could play football. It was unbelievable at times, that Bolton team. Like Alan said, getting them players as well. And that's why I'm so happy Dyche now has got his little bit of flair players at Everton with McNeil. It shows that and Ghana that they can do a little bit more than just hit the number 9. So, yeah, Big Sam, given the right players, he could play ball.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Blue Sky. What's it like taking a penalty in a high-pressure game? I'm thinking Cameroon for Gary and Germany for Alan. I don't know what he's thinking for Micah. Knowing the hopes of a nation rest on your shoulders, it must be a heavy burden to bear. I think I would throw up on the walk to the ball. Well, Micah couldn't cope with taking him in a mess about at half-time at Old Trafford. So.
Oh, yeah, that was last season, wasn't it? Was it last season?
Oh,
Yeah,
it was last season.
Was it this season?
This season.
Wasn't it?
All right.
Our record is 4 penalties, 0
Four
goals.
misses.
Let me say that again. 4 penalties, 1 in pre-season, 3 at Old Trafford, 0 goals.
Don't think we would rely on
Scope
you
for
then, would we?
improvement. I don't know. Describe that. You go first, Alan. Describe what it's like in a big World Cup.
Yeah, and the penalty shootouts, I mean, they're really different because they're more pressurised situations. And that, I think that walk from the halfway line to the penalty spot with the ball is probably the longest 30 or 40 yards you'll walk in your life, and the hardest, because if you're inexperienced, there's so many things that races through your head. Where's the keeper standing? Where's he going to dive? You can hear everything, but then the more you take and the more you're in that situation, then the more you learn to block all the crap out, focus on what you've practiced and what you're going to do, and you should be all right. And the walk back is a little bit easier when it hits the back of the net.
That is so. Alan, I don't know about you. I wonder if it was the same for you, because I think when I took in actually talking about the penalty shootout against Germany in the 1990 semi-final. I took the first penalty, as I know you did. Also in the shootout against Germany. And in those days, there weren't like there are now. There are balls all over the pitch now, aren't there? And they're all exactly the same. In those days, you played with like one match ball. There'd be a spare somewhere. So for the penalty in the 1990, I've got the ball on the halfway line, and I have to go all the way to the penalty spot, as you said, that 40-yard wall, whatever it is. And the whole way, it was kind of nicely distracting in a way, because I had the ball and I'm thinking, what should I do with it? Should I try and juggle it a little bit? Should I put it on the floor and kick it long? Should I just carry it? And that was all that was going through my mind. I didn't want to look like, I thought, no, don't try and juggle it. You'd crap at that. So I just thought I'll just carry it and then put it on the ground and flicked it around a little bit. And did you carry your ball all the way there? Can you remember?
I can't remember. What I do remember thinking exactly the same thing. There's no way that I'm keeping the ball up here, because if you keep the ball up and you drop it, it bounces 10 yards or something like that. I thought, nah, sod that, I'm not doing that. I don't know whether you remember though, but remember Ryan Giggs did that. He did it all up from the halfway line, so it kept it up all the way at Old Trafford. And I thought, I think he scored. There's no way I was doing that shit.
You need to score off. You're doing that flash stuff.
Yeah, just carry it.
And the other one, like the other ones I took in the World Cups in particular, which were the 2 penalties against Cameroon. I know this sounds a bit weird, but I thought I really loved it. It was like, that opportunity almost to show off that you've got a pair of balls. Like, give it to me. Give it to me. You're putting yourself, I mean, I know it's massively pressurised, and it was, but you're putting yourself in a situation that people will never be in. Never be in. You've got an opportunity to do something under the utmost pressure that if you pull it off, it's like the dog's bollocks. And I do remember the first one against Cameroon, because I've been England penalty taker for 4 years. 4 years, and we didn't have one single penalty. I think there was one friendly we played where there was a penalty, but I wasn't playing, and I think Clive Allen missed it actually. So I'd played penalty take for 4 years and practiced. I used to practice the same penalty. I know Alan did the same thing. Practice the one you're going to hit in the game. And then suddenly, 8 minutes to go, 2-1 down in a quarter final of a World Cup. My first ever England penalty, and I'd hardly taken any at club level at that point as well. I might have taken 1, 2 in my life, but I'd hit thousands of penalties in practice, thousands of them. And all I kept saying to myself, hit the penalty you did in training. Hit the penalty you did in training. Do not change your mind. Hit the penalty in training. That's all I was... and then I had one other thought. One other thought was... My biggest fan in those days, my brother used to... And I thought to myself, I wonder how he's watching this game. And he eventually told me he was watching it behind a sofa. He couldn't watch it.
Yeah. Pressure.
And that feeling of when you've hit the ball and you can see it.
Yeah.
And I always used to... My favourite penalty was... I know it sounds bizarre, but I used to like to hit it to the keeper's left and just bend it in a little bit, with the side foot there. And always aimed outside the post a little bit for 2 reasons. One, you will always chicken out a little bit and pull it in. So, and as soon as I hit it, I thought, that's sweet. And then the most gorgeous sight in football is watching the goalkeeper move in the opposite direction to your penalty. And then it went and it went in. And I thought, and then we went into extra time and got a penalty. And I had another, and I thought, I haven't planned for 2. What the do I do now? What do I do with this one? But he moved so early with the first one, I just plonked it down the middle. But
the relief when you see it hit the net. Eh? Oh my God, Jesus, yeah.
I mean, you actually ripped one in the top bins, didn't you? Was it Argentina? Argentina
and I went to the other side, I think, for Germany, and the 96 one, I went to the keeper's left, but my favourite one was try and whip it to the keeper's right high. Yeah, that was my go-to one. Yeah.
Yours was Harry Kane's penalty.
That's Harry's go-to penalty as well, isn't it? That same one. Yeah.
The balls. So obviously they're different from Gaz to Wallen. So is there a particular place or spot you would put the ball? Because, with free kicks, they sort of go where the valve is to get that little bit of, curve or spin or bend, whatever you want to call it. Or did you just put it down? Did you not worry about those details?
Always the valve for me. Always the valve was up on the top where I could see it, right in the middle. And I always used to try and get it right at the top of the penalty spot, so you can. I don't know what it is. You might be gaining an extra 6 or 7 inches closer to the goal, but always as far forward as I could get it. And the valve had to be up at the top.
Yeah, I always used to have the laces on the top. What's a valve?
Brilliant.
Chris asks, hi Gary, used to love watching They Think It's All Over. I thought you and Gower were great. Given Micah's also doing League of Their Own, why isn't Alan on a panel show? Well, this is pretty much a panel show.
This is our panel show, isn't it? Yeah.
Have you been asked to be on? I think you will be now. Now we've got Swear Real. I think you could be...
No, not been asked to host one or be on. I've been on a few of them, but I haven't. There's no plans. No, not at all.
Would you, Al?
I haven't got the time, Micah. Hard enough doing this with you guys all the time.
He's a busy man. It's quite fun doing. I mean, I did They Think It's All Over, I think 15 seasons for I think 8 years. And it's obviously what, League of Their Own basically ripped the idea.
Explain to the younger viewers and listeners what it was, please.
Not that long ago. Well, it is actually now. 20 odd years ago. It was like a version of League of Their Own, Micah. I'm genuinely. I don't mean you ripped the idea off, but you've obviously moved and changed it a little bit. But it was a sports quiz with comedians and sports people. We used to have various rounds. I think the show lasted about half an hour, and we'd record it every Monday evening in front of a live audience. There were rounds like Feel the Sportsman, was quite a good one. You get you would be blindfolded, properly blindfolded. They made sure. and then you'd get like a famous sports person, and you had to try and guess who it was. Now, obviously, if they, it was really like a swimmer would be just a little pair of briefs and trunks and stuff, and you had to be really. It was, and some, you'd have people dressed up with like for archery and archer or something, it was a lot of fun, and I think it was genuinely probably the basis for League of Their Own, because it was a comedy sports quiz along similar lines.
I've never seen it. I'm gonna try dig it out somewhere.
God, don't. Please don't. Please don't. Right, that's it for this question episode, and we'll be back later in the week with our Friday episode, and what we're going to do, chaps, because obviously there's no midweek football really this week, is we're going to do our awards of 2023. Okay, that's the plan. So we're going to have our best team, best forward, best goalkeeper, best manager, all that kind of stuff, best international player, and should cause a little bit of debate for you all. But for now, that's it. Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me. Cheers.